Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. It is the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. As we made mention last week sometime, history was made in the SEC and at Missouri, MIZZOU, Tigers baseball history. I have on the line right now none other than the baseball man himself, Brother Kerrick Jackson. How you doing, my friend?
Living the dream. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing real good. I can't say it enough, but congratulations yet again, sir, on making history in our beloved home state.
I appreciate it. It's surreal for me right now. It really hadn't quite just set in. Still working on it, but hit the ground running. So you get busy and being able to realize where you're at and how things are going. So at some point it's going to hit me.
Yes, sir. And you know, as they say, when you're developing and creating history, you don't think about it like that. You're just trying to survive from one day to the next. But as you say, this thing is slowly creeping up on you. Had you really had a chance to pinch yourself yet and say, you know what, I'm really doing this thing? We know what we've all had to overcome as a people and still have difficult challenges even when we get there, because for whatever reason it doesn't make this person satisfied one way or the other. Have you realized the challenge that it's going to take to overcome this thing?
Yeah, yes, and it's one of those things. Call me crazy or call me faithful, but I know what we're capable of at that place. I know there's some challenges, and it's going to be an uphill battle. But that's part of the fun of getting something and allowing it to reach its potential. And when you look at it, it just kind of comes full circle, right? That's why I coach. I don't coach because it's a cool job. I don't coach because I love baseball. I coach because I have an opportunity to have an impact on young men's lives and have them reach their ultimate potential. So as coaches, that's what we do. So when you talk about jobs and challenges, well, there's no more challenge than the human element. That's the biggest challenge that there is. And when you can accomplish that goal and move kids in the right direction and help them transition from being young men to grown men to responsible, accountable adults, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
Absolutely. Now, some people from the outside looking in will say, man, that was a fast track. He was an assistant coach, and then he came to the SWAC and did his thing, and then he went over to Memphis, and now he's the head man at Missouri. But they don't look at all the blood, sweat, and tears you put in between there. 11 years as an assistant, and this, that, and the other. How do you respond to those who might not know the full story?
It was definitely not a fast track. It had its turns and detours and workarounds, but the one thing I say, it never stopped. I was never deterred. There were no true roadblocks, if you will, because I just figured out another way. And so to be here and be at this point and know what I've done to get here, it was all well worth it. And if somebody asked me, I'd do it all over again.
Absolutely. Now, you were at the Southern University Jags for 2 seasons, and it was after replacing a quote-unquote legend in Roger Cador. You go in there and you turn that thing around. If you could, just briefly to get people to where we are today, what was the first thing that you had to identify that you can put your own signature at Southern, which led you to get to Memphis?
Again, every time you go into any place where you need to see improvements, it has to start with culture. And that's what we had to establish at Southern. We had to establish a culture, and a culture that was the idea of understanding the little things matter and playing baseball the right way. When I got there, we had a lot of kids that were really, really, really athletic. But when you talk about the difference between guys playing baseball and baseball players, we were guys playing baseball. And we quickly transformed into baseball players, specifically once they knew the things that were necessary to put us in a position to be successful. That group that first year, we only won 9 games. And that second year we won 34, but Florida A&M didn't turn those games in because we won them, so they don't count on our record. So they got us at 32-24, but really 34-24. It was just great to watch. And so I think that's the thing with anywhere you go. It's getting the right culture, because culture wins. You can go out and get really good players, and they can come and they can be successful, but when those players leave, what happens? So if that culture isn't established, then it makes it a rough situation to have sustained success. And that's what I'm after. I don't want flash in the pan success. I want sustained success. And that's where it starts.
When you talk about the changing of a culture, ideally, how long does it really take for the message to sink that this is the way things will be done? This is how we're wishing to get done. This is how they will be done. How long does it take for that message to relay?
It really, really varies from place to place on what kind of buy-in you get from the players. I think at Southern, they realized right away that by going about it the right way, it was going to yield success. It was going to yield wins. Even in the year of winning 9 games, we lost 33 games. Well, 15 of those 33 games were 2 runs or less. We were in the ball game, a lot of ball games with quality clubs that they had never been in those games before. And then when it got to that last little piece right there at the end, we didn't have enough to hold on. So they realized right away, oh, shoot, if we do this, then we're in a good position. And I think that next year with that club, if we had the lead after 6, I think we were like 26-4. So it's about that buy-in, and do the kids buy in and understand, and if they do, it can happen quickly. If they don't, it takes a little longer.
Right. Now you take your bags and you head to Memphis. You walk into Memphis, another cultural challenge, although some would say you didn't get a chance to stay there long enough to add your signature to there. What was the difference between landing at Southern and landing at Memphis, and what were some of the things that a change has been made, even though it was a short stint for you?
I think the biggest difference, if you will, is resources. Having better resources at the University of Memphis than we had at Southern. But when you talk about, and maybe these kids have been exposed to a little higher level of baseball than the kids at Southern had been exposed to, but the challenge is maybe a little bit greater at Memphis than they were at Southern, because I believe, the reality of it is, for the first time, some of those kids in that locker room had never been coached by anybody that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
So you add that element to it, and it's different, and what's the outside noise, and what are people saying, and so I think some of those kids were in that tug of war, if you will, of people saying, well, why did they pick him? But we moved the needle. But again, when you talked about the previous question you asked with regards to how long does it take, we didn't have 100% buy-in. And because we didn't have 100% buy-in, it cost us some games this year. Had we had that 100% buy-in, this club was good enough to put themselves in a position to be playing in a regional. But there was a lot of back and forth, and we missed out on opportunities because we couldn't get over that hump. So a lot of similarities and minimal differences, but the buy-in piece is the biggest.
Okay.
And in year 2 here, would we have had that buy-in at Memphis? I believe so, because we had those conversations at the end of the year with guys about who did and who didn't.
Okay, now it's ironic that you would say that buy-in and coaching kids who are not used to having someone that doesn't look like them coaching them. You step into the deep end of the pool now. You go to the SEC, a very similar stage of the SEC status of an African-American coach, Missouri Tigers status as an African-American coach. Growing up where Missouri, unlike Texas, it's only one Division I school in Missouri. So all eyes will definitely be on you when you step well, you've already stepped into the arena, but that you're here, and we know, unfortunately, even in this time, there will be some resistance. That's just the way the ball bounces. Do you let that weigh you down, or do you have to just cut that little piece off, hope that the healing takes on, and get on down the road?
Yeah, it's one of those things, and there's actually 5 Division I baseball programs.
Well, I meant to say like SEC.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. That's very simple, right? I think as black folks in general, if we get caught up into the why we can't, we never will, right? And so one of my statements is that I tell teams all the time, we will never be victims of our own circumstances. Mm-hmm. Circumstances are what they are, and in many instances they're not going to change. And if we adopt a mindset, or we get ready to make excuses for why we can't be successful, well, then we will never be successful. If we can overcome the challenges and have success, then we've overcome the odds. If we can't overcome the challenges and have success, well, then we got to figure out another way to try and get it going. And like you said, it is the SEC. If in 5 years from now I don't get it done and my contract doesn't get renewed, I can't blame anybody for that. It is what it is. I knew what I was getting involved in, and if my road is more challenging, if it's tougher for me because I am the first black coach, if there's different things that affect my ability to do my job effectively, well, then my job is to figure out how do I remove those situations from affecting me going about my business. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to want to hear, well, this was against me, and none of that matters. Either get it done or you don't.
Right.
So that's the mentality that you have to go in with it.
Okay. Now, we talk about this culture change, and you stepping back into Missouri turf, and some of the knock, when you listen to other SEC broadcasters, they knocked about Missouri's facilities wasn't top-notch what the SEC status was, and even some of the players come in with somewhat of a defeated attitude. Do you see this as somewhat of some of the same things that you inherited at Southern and at Memphis when you came in, as far as the mindset? And is this, I've been here before, so let me go and do this? And I know you just can't broad base everyone the same way, but because you might have a little bit more resources there, can you see this possibly being a shorter road to change their culture?
Well, like you said, it's a mentality, and it's an external mentality, and that seems to be the common theme. And you're from St. Louis, so when MIZZOU got into the SEC, it was, what they doing going in there? They don't have no business being in that league. And then from a baseball standpoint, people talk about what we don't have. And again, growing up, I was never taught to talk about what we didn't have. I was always taught to be appreciative of what we did have, right, and understanding that what we had was what we had, and that had to be enough because there wasn't any other option. So this situation is the exact same. Yes, we don't have the number one facility in college baseball, but Mississippi State did, and they finished last in the league the last 2 years in a row, or second to last. So again, it's not about the house, it's about the people in the house. And so the people in our house have to understand that there aren't going to be any reasons why we can't. We're only going to look at the things and the reasons that are out there that we can and focus on those, and then understand that with success then comes more. But that more that comes isn't going to make us better. Right? Candidly, I'm making more money now than I was making at Southern. That doesn't make me a better coach.
You're right.
If I'm good at what I do, I'm good at what I do. So whether you're paying me 50 cents or whether you're paying me $50 million, I got to be true to self. And so our kids have to understand that as well. I understand what you're saying. All these things would be nice, but then what they have, how does that affect your ability to go out on the field and step between those lines and compete? If you need the best facility stadium in college baseball to compete, you're not a competitor.
There you go. There you go. But that's been my approach. I know I'm a little older than you, but they say that's my old school way of thinking. Yeah, it's nice to look nice and, play with the best equipment. But if you're a baller, you're going to get it done somehow, some way. I think about the kids in the Dominican Republic who used to take the milk carts and get a rubber band and use those as gloves, because they love the game that much. So if there's a will, there's a way, and you make it done, which kind of leads me to where we are today athletically. And to me, it doesn't matter if you're playing NAIA, Power 5. We got a lot of prima donna players these days, man. And some of these guys have drank the Kool-Aid, the packet, the container that it was in, and they really think that the poop don't stink, and they're much greater than what they actually are in some cases.
No, 100%. I mean, social media. It's social media. It's out there. It's all about how many likes we get and how many people follow us and all those kind of things. And one of the things that I will stand on always is we need kids that want to be great. We talked about it at Southern. We talked about it here at Memphis, and we're going to talk about it, and that's going to be a focus for us at Missouri. And the great ones, the true great ones, when you look at it, I say it all the time. They have an internal motivation that supersedes their need for external approval. If you want to be great, what everybody else has to say does not matter.
Absolutely.
If you're worried about what other people are going to say and how other people are going to judge you and whether or not you fit their definition of success, then as a man, you are losing true value of self. Your self-worth is determined by external factors. That's going to make you an awful husband. That's going to make you an awful father. That's going to make you an awful man. You have to stand on your own and understand that no matter what anybody else says, I got to do what I believe is right, and I'm the one that's in charge of judging whether or not I'm having success or whether I'm not successful. I'm not going to let other people determine that.
Well, when you look at it like that, and we've talked about facilities, and we know funding has always been a challenge, even on the Power 5 scale in comparison to what football and basketball programs get. And we've had this conversation before. I hear that, and I know it is limiting to a degree, but that can't be your sole crutch of why you're not as successful as you could be, because although you might not have the depth of talent, there is some talent that can make you competitive on these levels, whether you have the 11.7, which will soon be 22, or you have 4 to 5. I know if you got 4 or 5, it makes it tougher, but there are a lot of creative ways to overcome these circumstances. Would I be too far left field to be thinking that way?
Not at all. I mean, you look at what just happened last night. Oral Roberts is going to the College World Series.
Yes, sir. 3,400 students.
They take buses.
Yes.
To all their conference trips. It's like you said, 3,400 students. Their resources, they have good resources. But again, what they have is enough. Mm-hmm. And we played those guys this year. They came here and played us, and they beat us. And they have a chip on their shoulder. And there's a quiet confidence about them. And they play the game the right way. Now, could ORU go through the grind of an SEC season? I don't know. But what I do know is they're one of the 8 best teams left in the country right now.
Right.
So whether it's a 1-year deal or whether it's a 2-year deal, how those guys have gone about their business and what he's done there has been absolutely outstanding because they've had sustained success. They have a culture in place, and they don't have all the shiny toys and the best stadium. And no, they play the game the right way, and they go about it, and they don't care who they're facing. And so for me, that's what we have to be able to get to. That's the difference for us in baseball than any other sport, football or basketball. It isn't mano-a-mano through the entirety of the game. There's opportunities and there are circumstances which it's you versus him. And you got to get it done or he has to get it done. But the game as a whole, it's about playing the game against the game itself and playing clean baseball, throwing strikes, quality ABs, playing the game hard, playing the game fast, and then you see what happens at the end. If you don't give the other team mistakes and you make them earn everything, that keeps you in the conversation and gives you a chance to beat anybody in the country. But if you do make mistakes, then the teams at the top level, they're going to capitalize off those mistakes. And once you get down, you're never going to get back up.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's been the fascinating thing. I guess when it's baseball, we see it in a whole different light than, I guess, what a football or basketball player would be, because it doesn't matter if you're 6'6" or 5'6". You know, the opportunities are going to be there. And to be quite honest with you, Brother Jackson, it doesn't even matter if I'm throwing 90 plus for 7 innings. If I don't know how to pitch, it doesn't matter, because you can have guys throwing 90 plus with absolutely no control, and if he reduces 4 or 5 miles off his pitch and has better control, he becomes a better pitcher.
Yep.
You know, so when you look at these different scenarios that you have coming up, and when you first get your radar and you pan that baseball surface on the campus, what would be the priority culture change that you would see necessary to get this train back on the track?
So I think culture is holistic, right? So I think it's the culture in itself. Can you point to one thing in that? Again, because you have to look at culture holistically, I don't think you can say one thing about the culture. I think the culture is the culture, if that makes sense. So for us, there has to be a high attention to detail. There has to be, a mindset of no whining, no complaining, no excuses. You have to, all the little things matter, right? And the things we talk about, all the cliches you can use, but, one of the things that's big for us is how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you think that, this is on this side of it, it's not that big. No, that's your mindset. And our mindsets don't shift. So yes, I think holistically the culture has to be adjusted and changed. And I don't think there's any one thing that you can figure out, because once it's right, it's right. Right.
Now, Missouri hosted Texas Southern this past season. And, I know the RPI is a huge factor, especially when it comes, to ranking and getting at large bids, this, that, and the other. Is there any potential plans in the future to continue that, as they say, reach back to help other programs like that, or is that something that you're going to have to be very mindful for, looking at your situation, and I'll just put it out there, you don't have to respond to this one way or other. If the other coaches are playing HBCUs, oh, what a great gesture. But if you start scheduling to play some HBCUs, it's going to create a conspiracy, possibly. So are there plans to possibly even continue that tradition?
Yeah, no, I definitely want to continue providing opportunities to play against HBCUs, because I think that was one of the things, that was, I don't want to say frustrating for me at Southern, but the idea of, if you want to create more interest in HBCU baseball with young black players, play competitive schedules. If they know that they have a chance to come in and play against, the LSUs, the Missouris, the Texases of the world, then they're a little bit more excited, as opposed to playing a bunch of Division IIs or NAIA schools. So, yes, we all want to win, but let's keep it real. Winning is perspective. And so, we won't load our schedule up with them, but if there's opportunities for us to play HBCUs, we will definitely do so.
Well, the reason I'm saying that, I know that, you got a couple of SEC schools that are in the backyard of some SWAC schools, and it'd be nice to be a little swing tournament, every now and then. I was just thinking, like when you guys play them Aggies, and perhaps them Panthers might be able to, roll up to you every now and then, or in the case of, the U of H is in the Big 12 now, but you know how you guys can do those swing trips, man, to get some games in and out.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
yes, sir. Now, when you got to this, because we had talked off the record a little while back, this coming back to Missouri has been your dream job. This has been your dream job, and now that you're here, and I know Mama was happy to say, "We're coming home, baby. We're going back home."
Yeah, she wasn't happy about moving again, but she was definitely excited about the idea of going home. And our kids were born in Columbia. We were married. We got married. We were living in Columbia. So yes, like you said at the top, this has been my dream job. And there's other places that I've been where I felt comfortable that I could stay there. I felt comfortable to be 100, and people, will probably say, "Oh, he lying," but I'm not. I felt comfortable with staying at Southern University for the entirety of my career. That's why we built a house in Louisiana. Coming to Memphis, I felt comfortable staying here in Memphis for the entirety of my career. But when an opportunity presents itself to get that job, the one you've always wanted, I'm going to retire or get fired from this place.
Right. Well, I'm not going to get too deep spiritually on you, but in Luke 12:48, he said, "To whom much is given, much is required." And you got broad shoulders. You stand, 6'3", and we know you're built for battle. And I am given 1,000% support on your battles that will lie ahead, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And really excited for the opportunities that will lie before you, for you and for those who you've just opened the door for, my friend, and not trying to turn this anthill into a mountain. But I am truly honored to be able to have this conversation with you, because we know that historically baseball was tried to be carved out to be for one set, but then it was proven and shown that African Americans were just as talented, just as intelligent in the game of baseball. And now you got a chance to prove that in one of the strongest divisions or conferences in all of college baseball. And it is nothing more joyful for my heart than to see, and then, the fact that you're a homeboy too, that helps out a great deal too, that you're able to get this thing and this opportunity to make this happen.
No, definitely, and I appreciate that, and like you said, very blessed and fortunate. And what I do know is not about me. It actually has nothing to do with me, and I'm okay and comfortable with that. I understand the challenges. I understand the implications of my success, and I understand the implications of not being successful. And that will always be forefront. And I understand, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be good, and we're going to be successful. And the success that we have is going to lead to other opportunities, not only for coaches, but for players. It's going to open up AD's eyes and people's eyes in this game. It's going to hopefully bring more of our kids to the forefront of saying, I want to do that. When we make it to Omaha, and keep in mind, it's not an if. When we make it to Omaha, that will be the proudest moment for us and our people with regards to an accomplishment in baseball at the collegiate level.
Well, that sounds good, my man, and I'm hopefully still look in your contact information. We say, hey, Mike, I'm on this journey, man. You want to take a couple of rides with me? And we're gonna be right there with an open mic and with the rah-rahs to say, get it done, brother, get it done. Look, Brother Jackson, I could have you on here for hours upon a day, but I know you're a busy man. You're transitioning to get everything taken care of. Let us reconvene and keep this thing moving. But I want to give you some closing thoughts and comments as we get ready to wrap this segment up, sir.
Yep. Again, I appreciate you having me on. We started conversating way back when I got the job at Southern, and I know a lot of people listen to your program. I know you're passionate about the sport. I know you're passionate about the SWAC at HBCUs, and I have not left that behind. I'm still trying to do everything that I can for our HBCUs to put them in a good position, and provide coaching opportunities and get players to go that way and all those kind of things. So again, this thing is holistic, and the fact that I did spend time coaching at Southern University and I was able to ultimately elevate and put myself in a situation to be the first black head baseball coach in the SEC, again, my success will be that of others. And us being successful will hopefully give the next one an opportunity and have ADs look at the next person and say, well, if he did it, then he's showing a similar track record, so he can do it too.
Sounds like a plan, my friend, and we appreciate you making time for us on today. He is Kerrick Jackson, the head baseball coach of the Missouri Tigers of the SEC. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We want to thank you guys so much for joining in with us. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and visit the website with our 24-hour stream at obnradio.com. So until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.